folks, Ariel over here at Nyth. Today I've got some kind of big news about life here. And Burley has been worn out from trying to chase chipmunks and dig them out of a rock pile, which they always win that battle. Anyway, so over the past couple years, if you're one of the people that's been following life here for a while, you know that I used to have quite a few videos fairly regularly, and there's been a pretty big gap. Part of the reason for that is that I've been busy with some other things. So one of those big projects is I was doing a video project for somebody else. It doesn't involve me at all, other than I was recording their stuff, doing the editing and putting that stuff together. I don't show up anywhere in it. But that project turned out to be a lot bigger than I anticipated, but we finally got that up and live. And I'd like you guys to go check it out if you have any interest. It was actually a project for my personal physician. He's been practicing medicine for quite a long time, and I got to know him through a friend. And anyway, this came about because he knew I did video work and so on, and he had a project he wanted to do and hired me to help him make it happen. So I'll put a link right here if you want to go check it out. It's basically a video cooking health course, but I think it's kind of cool because it's focused around particular things, like if you have diabetes, if you have depression, if you have heart disease, etc. Like what are things, and just, you know, nothing crazy and wacky kind of ingredients or anything, just basic step-by-step. He goes through how he cooks and what the different ingredients actually do for your body, so that if you want to learn to take better care of your health and you know, be able to reduce symptoms or even sometimes eliminate them. He is actually in his mid-60s, which you would never guess by looking at him, and he was diagnosed with diabetes at the age of 17, and that's kind of what inspired his whole journey to learning about human health and then helping other people with that for many years now. But anyway, go check it out. There's a whole bunch of free videos there, and there are paid courses as well. If you guys are interested in purchasing any of them, I get to give you a special coupon code because I helped make this all happen. So that's exciting, and the coupon code you can just use is Nyth, spelled F-Y-N-Y-T-H. I'll put the links to all that down below. Anyway, go check it out. At least watch the free stuff. You guys might learn something interesting. It's been a fun project. Like I said, it turned into being a lot bigger thing than I originally anticipated, for sure, just as far as the amount of work and editing and everything involved. But it's now live, and hopefully it goes on to become a wonderful thing that blesses many people in the world and helps make a difference in a lot of people's lives. So that is kind of finally wrapped up in my life, which gives me some more time back. And I thought I saw a hummingbird. It was a leaf blowing. They haven't, usually the first hummingbirds come back right about now, but it's been pretty chilly. It snowed the last 2 days, so I don't think they actually want to be here quite yet, but I thought that was going to be one, but it was a leaf blowing by. Anyway, so that's the first big thing. That's kind of wrapped up and done. Go check it out. And the next big thing that's probably even bigger for me is, as you know, or maybe you don't, a lot of you know, I've lived here in the same spot for quite a while. I live in Nyth, my tiny house here that is on wheels, which you can't tell when I'm sitting in here, and she's been parked in this same spot for about 7.5 years now. She was actually parked just a little further on down the mountainside the very first winter I had moved into her, because she showed up at the end of November, and it was already too snowy to get into the spot where she's been ever since. Anyway, so first few months we're in a slightly different spot that I can see from where I'm sitting, and then she moved further on up the hill. Anyhow, you probably also know, and I've done videos over the years talking about all of this, that I don't own the ground that I'm on. What I've done all these years is I do some work for the landlords. This is a fairly big ranch, and I help them. They have full-time, you know, a full-time caretaker as well. The clock's gonna ring. Anyway, but the full-time guy needs a second pair of hands at times, so that's what I've done to pay for being able to park my house here. And it seemed to have worked out well for both of us for quite a long time. I've lived here in a little clearing. They have quite a big property. They live kind of over on the other side of it. We can't even see each other. But I always knew that this wasn't going to be a permanent place where I would be forever. And that's been also the answer to a lot of different questions I've got over time. People say, why don't you build this or build that? And some of those things are more permanent infrastructure that are things I would like to do someday, but don't make a whole lot of sense to do when it's not my land and not a permanent place. So everything I've done here the whole time, from gardening to, you know, all that stuff, I have always known I was going to move someday. I'm actually surprised I ended up being here this long. When I first moved into a, you know, to this, it's getting plenty warm here. When I first moved into the tiny house, I had no idea if I'd be in a single spot for more than a, you know, few months at a time. But I've been here for a while, and that's been great. This past winter, however, both of my landlords passed away, and they were elderly, and so I knew that was going to be coming at some point, and so I've been preparing for a while to have a place to go. Now, again, if you've been following along here for a long time, you probably know that a few years back, I had purchased a property that you guys saw some photo and video of. That was after doing a lot of research and shopping around. And one of the next things I want to do is just a little, maybe even series of videos, sharing some of the info and things I learned in the process of property shopping, specifically for basically bare land that I wanted to, you know, be able to move a house on, since my house is already on wheels, and then, you know, be able to do homesteading, gardening, kinds of activities on. There's some things I know now that I did not know when I first started property shopping like that, so I'd like to share some of that. But anyway, I bought a place, and was not intending to move there immediately. I was intending to, you know, have it as a backup for when things changed with this situation, but then I hope to be there forever. In the meantime, several things changed there, mostly to do with local government and the most major issues with a big corporation trying to put in a really toxic smelter, working kind of on the slimy. Down low is actually a quote from themselves from FOIA requests to put in a very toxic smelter basically directly upwind of where that beautiful property was. I knew from the minute I heard about that happening that that was not something, you know, if that happened, that was not something I wanted to live downwind of. And there's still and has been for years now, a huge group of local folks who are fighting that battle. There's not yet been any resolution to whether it is or is not going to happen. But in the meantime, I just kind of, you know, things kept working out here, so I stayed here and didn't know what was going to happen there. Now, I didn't have all the cash when I was looking for properties to pay cash for that, and I had a good friend who offered to give me a loan, just a personal loan to help do that and make that possible. And then the deal was I was going to, you know, buy him out of it basically, and when I, you know, had fully paid back the money he loaned me, then it would just be my name on the title. That was the original plan. And since those things changed, and this has been hard for me, I guess, to all through life, not just with this, but I like to make plans, and I probably, like a lot of people, I don't necessarily like change. I want things to work the way I plan them, and I've had to learn that that is not always how things go. So my intention was to hopefully spend the rest of my life on that property. Now I don't believe I will ever actually live on it. So this past spring, like a year ago, I finally came to that conclusion and decided to sell that, and did so. But then I was back to needing a place to go. Now, the other part of this is that my friend who had helped me with that purchase, we have gotten to know each other over quite a few years now. Since before I lived in my tiny house, we actually first met. I used to go swing dancing a lot. There's kind of a local crowd of folks that like to dance pretty regularly, and it's good exercise and it's fun, and I haven't done it in years now, but anyway, I used to do that quite regularly, and I knew all the other local people who did as well, and one of them was a mutual friend, introduced me to this gentleman who's a friend of his when he came out one night. I kind of remember that. He remembers me being too busy to ever have a song free to dance with him. Anyway, shortly after that, I started a job at a little local restaurant as a waitress, which is what I did for quite a few years, and he was a regular customer there because his full-time job is property caretaking. He's the full-time caretaker on this property I live on and a couple others, and since he's the only employee at that kind of job, he would often come into the restaurant for lunch, both for food and kind of for some social life, because it was the only time in his day he got to see and talk to other people. So we got to know each other better. He's a friendly guy. He got to know all the waitresses in there, and when I had lost my last apartment, house I'd lived in with my roommate, and she and I had lived together for 6 years, and made the decision to go to a tiny house, which is where I've been ever since. I just kind of decided that, and I was trying to figure out where I could possibly park it, and I put out a couple inquiries to folks I knew in the area and such, and nothing had worked out yet, and I was discussing this at work one day, and it never occurred to me that somebody like his bosses would be okay with me parking on their property. But he went and checked with them and said, hey, yeah, we've got a little spot up here, this little clearing in the woods that you guys all now know through lots of photos and videos, and they said they'd be happy to have you park your house there. So that's how I ended up here. Now, over all those years, since what I've done in exchange for rent basically is to help them with projects, that means he and I have worked together a lot, and over time we've just gotten to know each other really well and realized we like working together, and we like, talking to each other, and we enjoy doing all kinds of things together. He's the one, you've seen him in the background of stuff around here before. He's the one that keeps my big lane, snow blowed open in the winter. I hand shovel all the other stuff, then I go help hand shovel other people's houses, but he does the the real big clearing the long distance of the lane. You've probably seen him help me cut up some trees and stuff. Anyway, we've worked together a lot, and we really like each other. So we just decided it made the most sense to combine our lives and do things together. So when that property that I had been planning to, move to on my own, when that plan didn't work out and we resold it, we had at that point decided we wanted to do things together. So we took that money and found a new place because we have similar, that was the other thing we realized over time, we have very similar goals and interests, and we just like doing life together, so we figured we'd do more of that. So we bought a property together, and since seeing as how my landlords here passed away over the winter, and I'm not entirely sure what their children are going to do with this property that I live on now, but that's not my business and that's up to them, but I'm going to be moving. So for the first time in 7 years, Nyth is going to go on down the road. And that's kind of exciting and a little nerve-wracking, but she's going to move into a new home, and then she may be there for a very, very long time. We'll have to see, but I'm excited about that and taking you guys along. You're going to get to see a whole lot of this. Like I said, I want to talk a little bit about the process of finding a property and what I was looking for and all the things I learned and wished I had known when I started that process. You're going to get to see the property I'm moving to is pretty much bare land. It's got a little strip of trees and a little creek down one side, but other than that, it's like a long abandoned hayfield that had a community burn pile in the middle of it, and nobody's done anything, as far as farming it in quite a few years, I think a decade plus, before we bought it. So you're going to get to come along and see me kind of recreate, hopefully, a lot of what I have here in a whole new spot, plus more. So I started blogging before I actually moved, into Nyth, but I hadn't been doing videos until several years after that, because video was just something I didn't really know anything about. And so I don't have a video record of a lot of my first projects, setting things up around here and so on, because that wasn't something I did. So I'm really excited to get to show you all of those projects, of making a little homestead, farmette, whatever. I don't care what what name you want to use, but something along those lines that is hopefully going to be our little home, and place to live, hopefully forever, though like I've learned before, you can't always make plans forever. Now, for now, I still have, this place is a little distance from where I am now, the kind of thing you can drive back and forth in a day, but I have a couple jobs like cleaning houses and gardening and such for some people in this area, so probably a couple times a week I'll end up commuting back here for some of that work for now, and hopefully have the rest of the week to work on getting all the stuff I want to do there established, like gardens and fruit trees and all of those things. And he still has a full-time job here, and with property caretaking like that, a big part of the job is being present most of the time to see what's going on and just keep an eye on things in addition to the actually doing things. So he's going to be continuing to live here full-time in the little caretaker cabin on this property, and we're going to be, you know, back and forth, but at some point, hopefully on down the road, possibly a little while, we're going to be able to build a little house together and have that be our home. But for now, I'm going to be mostly living in Nyth there and commuting back here some, and he's going to be living here, and when he has weekends and evenings and free time like that, coming and helping me with projects there, which is huge because there's a lot of the detail stuff, like I can plant the whole garden by myself and so on, but he just, and you guys are going to get to see all this, he just made my whole garden area all flat and angled slightly toward the south to get the best sun exposure for me with a skid steer. He's been doing building and that kind of thing for his whole life, so he's got all the tools and so on, and so when he has a little bit of time to show up, it's huge. So I just want you guys to know that all this stuff you're going to be seeing is certainly not me doing it by myself. It's very much us, though you probably are not going to see a whole lot of Clay in it because he just, cameras and video is not his thing, and I want to be respectful of that. This is something I was doing long before we got together, and he's always encouraged me to continue with that. He likes to share info with people and stuff, but you probably don't need to expect to see him front and center in a whole lot of things, because that's just, he's a little more private than that. But rest assured that a whole lot of what I'm doing would either not be possible without him, or else it would take me 10 or 100 times as long and probably not be done as well. So that's probably getting long enough for this video. Come along for the next little bit. I'm really excited to share stuff with you guys because I feel like in the 7 years I've been here, I got to do kind of practice homesteading, and there were times for sure when it was frustrating because I knew that whatever I was putting work and time into wasn't going to be permanent, and I've known that from day one. But on the other hand, I feel like it's been a really great opportunity to kind of practice things. If I did my garden one way and then thought, oh, that doesn't work, I don't like it, then when I do it more permanently, I know I don't want to do it that way. Just those kinds of things. I got to practice some things, and now I have a whole lot more experience about what I want and what does and doesn't work and all of those things. So now I'm really excited about getting to do some of these things more permanently. So you're going to see me moving the garden because it's actually parked in the way of being able to hitch up to the tiny house here to move it. So that's the very first thing that has to go. The snow is still melting off out there, but it's mostly off the garden, so I'm working at moving that. And once that's out of the way, then I got to do something with all the planters that are around the house because they're also blocking the house moving. Then you're going to actually get to see the house move down the road, which I'm a little bit nervous about just because I know there are people who travel all the time in their tiny houses, like my friends Christian and Alexis and so on, but I have been here for a very long time without moving her at all, so that's going to be exciting. And then kind of just I'm just so excited to show you guys, because what I've always tried to do here is share either, you know, what I know or what, hey, I'm going to try this and here's how it worked out. This didn't work at all. Like if you've been following for a long time, you saw me start out with garden beds in the ground. They grew really well till the gophers found them. Couldn't get rid of the gophers any other way despite everything I tried, so I moved the entire garden into raised beds with concrete block on the side and hardware cloth underneath, and that resulted. The last 2 years I've had wonderful harvests of tons and tons of veggies because now I get to eat them and the gophers don't, and trust me, they're still munching through everything else there, including all the things that they're not supposed to like the mint beds, which apparently my gophers didn't read the books about what they are and are not supposed to like eating. Anyway, so I have a lot of those practice and experience. That's just what I try to share is what I do, why I do it, and then how it works out for me, so that whether your situation is exactly the same or totally different, hopefully that provides some valuable info or insight into why you may want to do something similar or may want to do nothing like it at all. But that's what I want to continue to do. And just for a little taste before I run on forever here, I'm going to be moving the garden for now. I'm hoping to get more bigger garden areas set up because I always want to grow more food. We did have this property since about midsummer last year, so I've got to do some catch up on sharing the videos that I filmed and never got around to sharing through the last summer of projects that started. Like, I got the start of an orchard planted there last year, just a few fruit trees. I'm going to be adding a lot more. I've got yeah, just a whole bunch of projects that I'm so excited about setting up a permanent homestead. In a lot of ways, it's going to be just more of the same thing that I've been doing here, the same kinds of things, living a fairly simple life. For now, it's pretty much going to be off-grid. There is a power line onto that property. If you've been around here from the start, you probably know the only reason I'm actually off-grid here is because there's logistically, power is a very, very long ways away, but I don't see, since I already have the setup, I don't see any reason to use anything different for now, so the house is just going to have the solar panels beside it, and I'll keep running that system as it has been. Probably going to get a shop built for him and his tools, which is super helpful to me because he has all the tools and knowledge and skills to do all the things I'm not good at. There's things I'm good at that he's not. I like to cook, he likes to eat, but he can do all the building and designing and all of that stuff that I don't know anything about. And so, you know, there may be power into that. So at some point here, I always want to keep my life so that if power is down, I will, you know, be fine, and I feel like I'm fairly good with that at this point, seeing as how I've managed to live for 7.5 years with that. But if there's some there and it's working, we may use some. So anyway, there's just, I have a whole ton of projects. There's probably going to be some poultry involved, probably some beekeeping involved, and I just look forward to sharing with you all of the different projects, what I do, how it works out, the lessons I learn. Like I said, I've got a lot of years of practice on a lot of this stuff that now I know what I want to do for sure. And my summer is probably planned. I have probably more projects planned that I can quite fit into a summer, but I'm really excited that I kind of get to do all the things I've loved here, but more, you know, and do it with, you know, the best partner I could possibly ask for to work on doing life together with. So follow along. I know a whole ton of you are here on YouTube. Like most other people, yes, I've had problems with things being censored and deleted. I don't know of really any channel except maybe one that was just started very recently who hasn't had a problem with that. So if you want to be sure that you can find all the updates and follow along regardless of what happens here, come over to the blog. You can subscribe for updates there. Then if something happens, I can let you know where I am. And check out Odyssey. It's another video site. Works pretty much like YouTube. You can subscribe there. The whole channel is there. I think there's 560 videos or something. If you are newer here and you want to go back through and see what I've been doing in all the years I've lived here and how that's worked out, you can check all those out. But, you know, follow some other places if you don't want to lose it, if whatever happens on YouTube, but everything is going to be findable via various methods because my whole original point was to share useful info and hopefully make it findable by the people who found it useful. So that's my video for today. Lots of big news, and in some ways my life going on like normal, but in a different spot, but more fun, with more of all of it, and more permanent, and with an awesome partner. So, that's the news from Nyth today. Hope you guys all have a wonderful day. See you next time. Hi folks, Ariel over here. Thanks for spending some of your valuable time watching these videos. Hopefully you found something beautiful, educational, interesting, peaceful, relaxing, or useful while you were here. If so, find more videos here, subscribe so you don't miss any updates, and if you like what you found here, feel free to like and share away so that others can benefit as well. You all have a wonderful day.